Okay, welcome everyone. I can see lots of people joining, which is great. So we'll just have a couple of minutes of letting everyone come in and get settled in. Lots of people flooding in, which is great. So if you get settled in, have a look at this slide. Today's topic for the MyTutor Christmas course for GCSE biology is plant hormones, and we'll start properly in a couple of minutes once everyone's here. Have a look at the Q&A and the chat buttons at the bottom of your screen. Make sure that you've got a good idea where those are. We'll use the Q&A button for questions about the content, and then we'll use the chat for kind of general questions and answers and things like that. Feel free to pop a hi in the chat. It's always really good to know where everyone's joining from. So pop a hi, pop where you're from if you want to. I am in Bristol in the UK, and it's pretty rainy, so let me know. We'll just wait a couple more minutes. I can still see people coming in. There's about 55 of us here at the moment. There should be a few more. Hey, hi Nadia in London. Hi down in Wales. Emily in Devon. Oh, Lois in Bedfordshire. Having Hearts, Bath. Oh, someone else in Bristol. Hi. Someone in Reading, Kent. Oh, hi from Qatar. Gosh, I hope it's a bit warmer over there for you than it is here. Quite a few people from London, Sussex, lots of people in Tier 4. I'm sorry, I hope that hasn't ruined your plans for Christmas too much. I know there's lots and lots of changes happening at the moment. Okay, a couple more minutes, just see a few more joining. It's only 3 minutes past. Give it another minute or so. Okay, welcome everyone. Albert from Sussex, hi. Jess from Brentwood. Fantastic. Okay, so I think we will start. We've got quite a few people here, so that's great. Welcome to the final session of the MyTutor online school Christmas course for GCSE biology. Today's topic is plant hormones, which forms the last little bit of the homeostasis and control section of the GCSE biology specification. Depending on which syllabus you are studying, you will have this as a general topic, and there might be some more detail and some less detail depending on which one you're studying, but this does appear across the boards, so this should be useful to you whatever exam board you're studying. My name's Charlotte. I was lucky enough to tutor the online school through the first lockdown earlier this year, and I also did some of the half-term biology course as well. I studied biological sciences with study abroad for my undergraduate degree at the University of Exeter, and then I also studied a master's degree in conservation and biodiversity. So I've been really lucky to take my biology studies through 2 degrees, and now I also use it in my job. I work with farms to try and introduce ways that they can do good things for the environment. So that's me. So let's move over to the lesson space, just talk about the topic of today's lesson a bit more. So plant hormones forms the last part of the homeostasis and control section of the syllabus. As we've said earlier, a little reminder that you've got the Q&A and the chat box at the bottom of your screens. The Q&A used to pop any questions that you have about the content, about university, about A-levels, and anything else. And then there'll also be times where I stop. I might ask you guys for your opinion, or you might want to put some answers to some questions, and use the chat for that, because that'll just make sure that when I scroll down the Q&A, it'll be all the questions that I need to answer. This session will be about an hour long. We're aiming to finish at 4, and it will be recorded. So the recordings are all available on the MyTutor YouTube channel. So if you go over there, they should be ready for you within a couple of days. Okay, so let's start. Oh, another note for today, actually, I'm going to spend about 15 to 20 minutes on plant hormones, but then there were lots and lots of questions yesterday and the day before as part of these sessions about A-levels and about university. So we're going to have a quick look at the UCAS website, and I'll show you how to find or search for the courses that you're interested in and how to find out what they want from you for A-levels if you want to be a part of that course. And you can use that for university courses or apprenticeships or any other sort of further education as well. So hopefully that will be useful too. But to start, oh, and then there'll be a quiz. So there is going to be a Kahoot today. But to start off with, we need to have a quick look at plant hormones. So what we mean when we talk about plant hormones is how do plant shoots and roots know which way to grow? So when we talked about hormones in the human body, we talked about chemical messengers that move around our body and our blood, and they reach their target organ and then they cause a response. And we talked about insulin and glucagon in particular and the way that they regulate blood glucose levels. And then we talked how that relates to diabetes. But plants are a different system altogether, and they don't really have blood. So hormones in plants work slightly differently. And all you need to know about them is, I think there's 3 or 4 that you need to know and their functions, and we'll go through that today. So we've got this little bean germinating here, and you can see here's the seed, and then we've got a root growing downwards, and we've got shoots growing upwards. And that is all controlled by hormones. Plants are really sensitive to light and gravity, and it's hormones that control the responses to light and gravity. So we've got our little bean here again. Shoots are sensitive to light, and they grow upwards with the aim of photosynthesizing as much as possible. So photosynthesis is how a plant generates its own, it converts light into energy, along with respiration as well. And plants also grow against the force of gravity. Plant roots are sensitive to gravity so that they can anchor the plant and extract water and minerals from the soil. So roots grow downwards in order to make the most of the water and minerals in the soil, and shoots grow upwards in order to make the most of the light that's needed for photosynthesis. And these responses have special names. So these are keywords that you need to remember for this topic. They're known as tropisms. And the response to light is called phototropism. Photo means to do with light, and then tropism is response. So light response, phototropism. And the response to gravity is a bit easier to remember because that's gravitropism. So gravity and tropism joined together, gravitropism. So those are 2 keywords for the responses to light and gravity in plants. So phototropism and gravitropism are controlled by the hormone auxin. Another key word there. And the distribution of auxin controls the direction of growth. You can see this diagram's just split over the bottom of that line there. So we've got an example, which is this diagram. So having a look at this diagram, this is a really good explanation. A normal young bean plant is laid on its side in the dark, and you can see the bean there, and you've got the root and the shoot. And because it's in the dark, auxin is equally spread through the tissue. So auxin are these little red dots here. Let's get my pointer up. Here we go. Little red dots here. And gravity is obviously working downwards on both the root and the shoot there. But auxin works slightly differently in roots and shoots. So in the root, more auxin gathers on the lower side, and in the shoot, more auxin gathers on the lower side. In the root, the plant grows more on the side with the least auxin, which means that it bends and grows downwards towards the force of gravity. So gravitropism works on the roots. It means that the plant grows more on the side with the least auxin, and so it bends downwards. When it goes down, the auxin becomes evenly spread again, you can see. In the shoots, the shoot grows more on the side with the most auxin. And that means that the shoot bends and grows upwards, away from the force of gravity and towards light. When it goes up, the auxin's been evenly spread again. So there's two different things that you need to remember there. And the way that I remember it is that a root grows down, so it grows more on the side with the least auxin. A shoot goes up, grows more on the side with the most auxin. So up and most, down and least. The way that I remember that. Let's circle that on this slide. Okay, slightly difficult to remember, but it's really cool. I mean, that's amazing that this little hormone means that a plant knows that the shoot needs to grow upwards and the root needs to grow downwards. And this happens in every plant. And that hormone, because it's so reliable in the plant's responses to it, can be really useful to us within agriculture or horticulture, so growing plants or growing crops. So practical uses of auxin. There are two that you need to remember here. So auxin can be used when you're taking cuttings, so it can be used in a rooting powder. And that stimulates the growth of plants that are identical to the parent plants. So I don't know whether anyone's very familiar with taking cuttings, but a lot of plants, you can take a cutting, so that's literally a small part of the plant, you just snip it off, and then you pop a little bit of the rooting powder, you can see in this diagram here, and that rooting powder contains auxin. And that enables that little cutting, that little bit of plant, to know that it needs to grow roots that grow downwards. And so you can then grow plants that are genetically identical to the parent plant. So it's effectively cloning, taking cuttings. So if you've got a really good variety of wheat, a really good plant in your garden, and you want to replicate it and have it on the other side as well of the yard, then you can take a cutting and grow it from that. You know it'll be genetically the same. Auxin can also be used as a weed killer. So if sprayed on leaves, it can cause uncontrolled growth that kills the plant because it's very good at stimulating growth. Most weeds are broadleaf plants while crops are mostly narrow-leaved, so auxin can be used as a selective herbicide to increase that crop yield. So auxin works best as a weed killer on plants that have bigger leaves. So if you're trying to grow plants that have smaller leaves, which most crops do, you can use auxin as that selective herbicide. So it basically only kills the ones that you don't want and leaves the ones that you do want. So two uses for auxin: as a rooting powder to stimulate cutting growth and as a weed killer. Okay, so auxin was the first one, and auxin is the one that you need to know the most about. But there are a couple of other hormones that you need to know about and just their rough functions within the plant. So one of those is gibberellins. Gibberellins are another plant hormone, and they initiate seed germination by breaking down the seed food source. So you know, like in an egg, where you have the yolk, and the yolk is what the chick uses. It contains all the nutrients that the chick needs to grow until it hatches from the egg. Well, plants have the same in their seeds. So they have this food store. And gibberellin is the hormone that says to that seed, hey, you need to start using that food store. It's time to germinate. It's time to start growing. So gibberellin initiates growth in the plant by breaking down the food store. Gibberellins are used commercially in the brewing industry because they're really good at encouraging the growth of the seed. So ending dormancy, speeding up the germination of barley seeds that are used to make malt. So that's used in beer and in whiskey as well. So gibberellins, good in the brewing industry. They're also good for promoting flowering throughout the year as well, especially in pot plants. So if you want plants to continue flowering all through the year, you can use some gibberellins and that will help them keep flowering. And they're also used to increase the size of fruit in seedless varieties to replace the natural hormones. So grapes are a really good example of this. When we go to the supermarket, you quite often get seedless grapes because the seeds are really small and they're really annoying to pick out your teeth. So we get seedless grapes. But obviously, to grow really well, that fruit comes from a seed. So if you don't have seed, how do you have the food stores to grow really big? Well, if you spray on some gibberellin, it encourages that fruit to grow well, even without the seeds that would have that natural hormone in. Gibberellins. And finally, ethene. So ethene is another plant hormone. It's unusual because it's a gas. That's quite often a question, which plant hormone is a gas? It's involved in controlling cell division, so it's important for fruit ripening. And usually you'll see ethene used as an example for bananas. So bananas aren't usually grown in the UK, where I am. And wherever they are grown, they're often harvested before they're ripe. They can then be transported, say, to the UK and kept chilled. So they'll remain undamaged and they won't go off. They won't become overripe before they arrive here. And once they arrive in the UK, they are stored. And when the supermarkets are ready for them, the temperature will be raised and ethene will be added. And as a plant hormone, that tells those bananas, we need you ripe now. So the bananas ripen up and then they can be used in the supermarkets and sold. And that's so quite often bananas are picked green and then when we buy them, they'll be yellow. That's with the use of ethene that we can do that. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so like I say, plant hormones is a very small topic, so I think really good to go through today. I'm trying to think which slide you'll probably want. Let's leave this slide up for now. For anyone who is taking notes, do pop in the chat if you want me to go to any particular slide, if I've gone a bit quick, because I appreciate we kind of rattled through that a little bit. Okay, I'm going to pop through the questions now and answer any that I can, and then we'll have a quick look at the UCAS website before we do a quiz for this year. So if you've got any questions that you want to put in, make sure you pop them in the chat. Okay. Okay, so a couple of questions, quite a few questions that I can see about knowing whether this is needed for triple science or double side, or whether this is higher tier. So plant hormones mostly appear, and again, it depends on your exam board, they mostly appear in the biology single GCSE. So if you're doing triple science, this would appear. Certainly auxins will appear. Some of the details might differ depending on the exam board that you're studying as well. So for foundation, depending on your exam board, you'll probably need to know about auxins. You might not need to know about gibberellins and ethene we've just gone through. But well worth checking with your exam board in your textbooks for exactly what appears. plant hormones is one of those that it usually appears across them, but the level of detail depends. So you've had a good summary today. Okay. Really good question. What type of things do you study if you do conservation and biodiversity? I will come back to that one. I'm just going to whip through the rest of the plant science questions, or the plant hormone questions. What if the seed is upside down? That's a really good question. So seeds know whether they're the right way up or not. So if you look at this seed, even if it was, so a seed knows which way is up because of that hormone. So they always germinate kind of on the top or at the side. You know, sometimes when you grew beans and stuff in primary school, which I remember doing, then they'll germinate from the side, so at right angles to this. But they, a bit like eggs that are hatching, the split in the seed, so where the shoot and the root comes from, the shoot and the root will always know which way is up because they respond to gravity in different ways. Is it ethene a hydrocarbon? Yeah, really good. Someone with good knowledge of biochemistry there. Yes, ethene is a hydrocarbon. Oh, someone said, can I go up a bit on this slide? And I'm sorry, I don't know which slide that was. Someone's asking if I can go to the Gibberellins slide. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Are plant hormones used in organically produced fruits? Really good question. Usually, no. I'm not quite sure on the specifics, because you can get plant hormone products that are organic in there, because plant hormones are a natural thing. But usually in organic fruits, you definitely wouldn't use any artificially produced plant hormones, but there might be exceptions if you really needed to, so in a really bad year. But no, organically produced usually try to stick to the natural hormones within the plant, and they use other methods of weed control. So you wouldn't be using Auxin as a herbicide when you're producing organic products. You'd be using other methods. So that might be rolling over the weeds to kill them before the next plant comes through underneath them. Would biology be the most suitable science for a vet nurse? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Biology, and particularly kind of anything to do with anatomy or microbiology, really useful for veterinary nursing. Are cuttings kind of like stem cell cloning in animals? Yeah, good question, Pranav. It kind of is, except it's much easier in plants because plants are much more kind of inclined to grow well from a cutting. But yes, if you think of like strawberries that put out those suckers and then they kind of form new plants at the end of those suckers, brambles do it as well. So taking a cutting is kind of like that, except you're doing it artificially. So the plant sends out its own suckers that do that, but we can take a cutting and then put it somewhere else, and it will grow and be genetically the same, because there's been no mixing of genes there. Okay, I'm going to pop back to slide 2. There's been a request there about that one. Slide with the tropisms on. There we are. Okay, so I'm going to stick here for a bit, and then, sorry, whoever's asked for the ethene slide, we will go to that one in a second. Okay. Someone asking whether Olivia is helping running these sessions. Olivia is helping, yes. So she's in the background here, helping me with any technical aspects as well. In my mocks, I had a question about industrial farming and I wasn't sure what to write. Can you explain it? AQA, Trilogy Combined Science. Okay, so that will be exactly what's in here. It depends exactly what that question was, so industrial farming comes up a few times in the AQA spec. We kind of touch on it here with that use of Auxin as a selective herbicide, and the use of other hormones as well. So Gibberellins and ethene too can be related to industrial farming. The other topics that link in really well are selective breeding of livestock. So as part of the inheritance part of the spec, that links to industrial farming as well. And there is also a section about food production on a large scale versus a small scale, using different types of wheat that might be genetically resistant to some things. That comes up again in part of the inheritance section. So well worth going back to those and brushing up on them a little bit. What is cell differentiation, and is this related to plant cuttings? Yes, in a way. So the auxin that you use in that rooting powder allows those cells that will become root cells to differentiate and therefore grow into roots. Does selective breeding have any ethical issues? Yes, absolutely. Lots of ethical issues that come up when you're talking about selective breeding. So is it right to selective breed for certain traits? Pugs are really good examples of that. Pugs have those really, really pushed in noses, and it compresses their airways. So eventually they often have trouble breathing. Okay, let's pop to the ethene slide, or whoever needed ethene there. Can biology come in handy for bioengineering? Yes, absolutely, and certainly biochemistry part of it, so how molecules are formed and what is comprising them. Okay. Right. So let's have a look at the UCAS website here. So for those of you asking about which A-levels are useful for which course, this is the place to have a look. We had lots of these questions yesterday, and I didn't get time to get to all of them, and I might not today either. So this is a good thing for you to be able to look at. So ucas.com is a website that you will probably become quite familiar with when you take A-levels, if you do take A-levels. It's really good for getting an idea of what courses are available where. And so that's for universities, or also colleges, college courses, apprenticeships, any sort of further education you can look at here. And it's really helpful. So for those of you that are asking things like, what was the one that we just had? Biomedical engineering. No, bioengineering, or veterinary ones. So let's have a look in the courses section. So undergraduate, doesn't matter where. Let's put in bioengineering. Press search there. There we go. So we can see that Imperial College London does a molecular bioengineering course. It's a Masters of Engineering course, takes 4 years. And if we click on it, we can scroll down. It's got a good summary of the course, how to apply, entry requirements, fees and funding, and provider information. So if we go to entry requirements, A-star AA, must include an A-star in maths, an A in chemistry, and an A in another A-level, preferably biology, physics, or further maths. General studies and critical thinking are not accepted for that one. Or if you're doing international baccalaureate, you'd need 38 points. So a 6 in mathematics at higher level, 6 in chemistry at high level, and 6 in a third subject at higher level as well. or if you're doing the Cambridge International Pre-University Certificate, D2, D3, D3 and another one ideally. And you can do that for any kind of course. So if we go back to home, veterinary is another one that quite a lot of you are asking for. So let's do another search there for courses. Let's put veterinary. Oop. So if we put that keyword in, we can have a look. Okay, so Aberystwyth University do a veterinary biosciences course. They also offer equine and veterinary bioscience and veterinary biosciences with an integrated year in industry, which means that you would spend 1 year of that course working. Veterinary nursing is offered at University Centre Aston Bryan. Biomedical sciences at Bath. And bear in mind that some of these aren't specifically veterinary medicine courses that would allow you to qualify as a vet. There'll also be vet nursing on here. There's a veterinary physiotherapy course there. Veterinary science at Bristol. That one definitely does need to qualify as a vet. So again, we can have a look here, nice course summary there. Check that it's a course that you're interested in, that it qualifies you to do what you want to do with it. Have a look at the entry requirements. Standard offers are 3 A's, including chemistry and 1 of biology, physics or maths. Or A star, AB, including chemistry and 1 of biology, physics or maths. So there is a good range there of what they might accept. But you can get a good idea of the subjects that you might want to take in order to be eligible for those courses. Okay, more questions coming in. Is UCAS only for medicine degrees and what about BMAT? So some courses will require extra tests at university, particularly Oxford and Cambridge. So the BMAT is part of that. And there'll be other ones as well. And again, you know, your teachers at school and your careers advice centre should be able to help with the specifics that would be needed for those. I don't have time to go into all of the specifics today, unfortunately, for each specific course, but make sure that you have a good idea. UCAS website, again, provides a good understanding of those as well. What subject is general studies? Is it something to do with current affairs? General studies is a A-level that's offered, and it is mainly about kind of using your knowledge and improving your knowledge in certain areas, so you can pick the areas that interest you as part of that A-level. And it's often not accepted for university courses, so definitely worth checking that before you go for it. But it can be useful for other things, so worth looking at. Do people get paid if they do a course with a year in industry? Yes. Quite often, sometimes yes, sometimes no, it depends, but usually there will be some sort of payment. Someone saying maths, biology and chemistry for A-level and I want to do veterinary. Great, you are doing all the right things. UCAS points is something that you will become quite familiar with when you do your A-levels. So UCAS points are what you get from doing your A-levels, and that will be used for getting into university. Okay. Rishi pointing out that there's another website called informedchoices.ac.uk, which can be really useful. Thanks for that. Definitely worth checking that one out as well. Okay, I think it's time to do Kahoot. If you've got more questions, pop them in, and if we've got time at the end, I will try and answer them if I can. So this Kahoot will bring together the things that we've talked about over the last 3 days. So it's going to be talking about the endocrine system, insulin and glucagon, Okay, I think that's better now. Let me just share my screen. Sorry, everyone. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. Sorry, everyone. That's internet problems, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with from this year. So here we go. Let's do classic. So any minute, if you go to www.kahoot.it, or if you have the Kahoot app, and then you pop in this game pin, which worked really well. I'm going to be a real Scrooge and turn the volume down. Okay, great. Perfect. Thanks, Olivia, for popping those in. That Kahoot pin in. That's great. And for those of you who need it, it's www.kahoot.it. Okay, well done everyone that's joining. I can see loads of people, which is fantastic. Okay, we'll just give everyone a second to join if they want to join. And then hopefully we can start. There'll be 10 questions, so it shouldn't take too long. And we have a mixture of lengths of time for each question as well. Okay, is that everyone in yet? If you'd rather play along in the chat, then go for it. Just there'll be multiple choice questions, so you can just pop your answer in the chat. You don't want to use the Kahoot website. Okay, 10 more seconds and then we're going to start. Just make sure that everyone's in that wants to be in. Okay. Five more seconds. Let's go for it. Okay, so the endocrine system and plant hormones quiz. Question 1, what is the function of the endocrine system? Is it to break down food, to produce and regulate hormones, to remove waste from the body, or to protect the body from diseases? What's the function of the endocrine system? 5 seconds left. Anyone who wants to play along in the chat, feel free to pop your answers in the chat. Okay, the function is to produce and regulate hormones. Well done, those of you that got that one right. That's fantastic. Good start. Okay, who answered quickest? Boris Johnson 2.0, closely followed by S, Raju, Nadia, and Hi. All right, question 2. What is insulin? Is it a hormone that prevents illness, a hormone that regulates the amount of glucose in the blood, a hormone that cares for reproduction, or a hormone that regulates blood oxygen? 5 seconds. Anyone wanting to play along the chat? Go for it. Good. A hormone that regulates the amount of glucose in the blood is insulin. Well done, everyone. Let's have a look at the leaderboard. Boris Johnson 2.0 still at the top, closely followed by Nadia, Ellie, Milan, and Hayley. Okay. Question 3. Where are insulin and glucagon produced? Is it the capillaries, the pancreas, the kidney, or the alveoli? 10 more seconds. Where are insulin and glucagon produced? What gland produces those hormones? Good. Well done, everyone that got pancreas. Fantastic. Leaderboard. Boris Johnson still at the top. Raju coming back up again. Hey, Ellie, Hayley, and Nadia. Fantastic. Good job. Question 4. When is glucagon released? When blood glucose levels are low, when blood glucose levels are just right, when blood glucose levels are high, or when we're all dead and nothing matters anyway. 6 seconds left. Good. Glucagon is released when blood glucose levels are low. It makes sure that the stored glucose, which has been stored as glycogen, is broken down into glucose and heads back into the blood, ready to be sent wherever it's needed. Oh, Nadia, you were very quick on that one. Ellie and Milan at the top. Boris Johnson 2.0 has gone down. Question 5. What is diabetes? Is it elevated levels of glucose in the blood and urine, a chronic condition affecting the head, a condition in which blood sugar is sweet, or a form of, oh, very quick, okay. Well done, everyone that got elevated levels of glucose in the blood and urine. Okay. Nadia's still at the top there. Boris Johnson coming in again in second. AV and Lewandowski, sorry, terrible pronunciation. And Ellie there coming through. Question 6. In type 1 diabetes, the pancreas cannot make insulin, the pancreas cannot accept insulin, the liver does not make glucagon, or the liver cannot convert glycogen. Which of those happens in type 1 diabetes? Okay. Well done, everyone got that the pancreas cannot make insulin. So remember, in type 1 diabetes, the pancreas doesn't make it, and in type 2, the body doesn't respond to it, or there's too little being made. Well done, Hayley, back in the game there in place number 5. Question 7. Management of type 2 diabetes should include eating healthy, regular exercise and prescribed medication, losing weight and maintaining a healthy weight, managing and controlling blood pressure and cholesterol levels, or all of the above. Which of those is type 2 diabetes? or management of type 2 diabetes should include which of those? Ready? Oh, a bit more divided on that one. So managing type 2 diabetes should include all of the above. Well done, those of you that got that one. Those of you that put eating healthy, regular exercise and prescribed medication, you are right. But management of type 2 diabetes should also include losing weight and maintaining a healthy weight, and managing and controlling blood pressure and cholesterol levels as well, which is all linked to that optimum, being at that optimum weight and having a healthy lifestyle. Let's see the leaderboard. Well done, Mimi, Anna, Nadia S, and Boris Johnson 2.0 at the bottom there. Question 8, negative feedback. Brings the body above normal, increases stimulus to cause reaction, brings the body back to normal, or increases stimulus to stop a reaction. Negative feedback is something that we discussed yesterday with regard to blood glucose levels and insulin and glucagon. And we also talked about it with thyroxine and TSH as well. Good, lots of answers. Ooh, mixed results for this one as well. So negative feedback brings the body back to normal. Negative feedback is what we, a way that we can describe a system that is always striving to keep the body at a normal level, a constant level. So the body may be above normal, but then the negative feedback system will try to take it back to normal. Well done, those of you that got that one. That one was a bit more tricky. So well done, S, A, B, Ellie, Mimi, and Anna. Good job. Question 9. Only 2 questions left. What is auxin? We talked about that today. Is it a chemical released by plants to attack predators, a hormone in plants that control shoot and root growth, a drug used by dwarfs to increase their size, or a chemical used by farmers to decrease the size of plants? Okay, good job those of you that got that one. A hormone in plants that control shoot and root growth. Auxin is the main one that you will need to know. Well done. How's that leaderboard looking? Oh, not too much change. They're still on the top there. And the final question. Name the plant hormone that's used to ripen fruit. Which one did we talk about? We talked about bananas. Well done. Yes, ethene. And remember, ethene is also the hormone that's supplied as a gas, so it's slightly unusual. That is how plants are ripened. Okay. Final podium. In third, AV. Well done. In second, Ellie. And in first, at the top of the podium, is S. Really good job, everyone. I hope that's managed. Oh, runners up of Anna and Nadia. Great. Really good job. Okay, we have got about 10 minutes left. So any final questions that you have, pop them. Oh no, Pranav, you came 6th. Oh, I'm sorry. I wish that the podium had 10 places. Any final questions that you have, pop them in the Q&A. I'm going to pop back to the lesson space here. Oh no. I just need to refresh this because of the internet that we lost. So let me just drag this over here. I will leave you with the UCAS page so that you can make sure that you can log into that. Well done those who won there. The other thing that I wanted to mention was revision techniques for over Christmas, and also the other resources that you have in MyTutor and what's available. So, over Christmas, make sure that you have a good go at working out what revision techniques work well for you, and that depends on how you learn. So, oh no, we've lost that booking page completely. Okay, no problem. How you learn makes a big difference to how you revise. So, if you learn best by doing things, make sure that you do things as part of your revision. So make sure that you make word maps, make diagrams, write things down 3 times, whatever works for you. If you learn best by looking, by seeing, then make sure that you do lots of things that are very visual. So again, diagrams and drawings and color codings are really good for people that learn well visually. And if you learn well by hearing, then record what you need to know and listen to it occasionally. Listen to it while you're running, listen to it while you're cooking or doing something during your day, you know, like you would with a podcast or anything like that. There's lots of different ways to revise, and people learn in different ways. So make sure that you take a good look at how you learn and make the most of that. And a lot of people learn in combination. So I learn best by seeing and then doing. So I color code everything and then I make word maps. Revision cards as well are a really good idea, because then you can flip them over for the answers as well. So those are all good things to do over Christmas. Over the holidays, if you're trying to pack in a little bit of revision, you might well have mocks in January, depending on what stage you're at. I know some of you will be just starting your GCSEs and others are looking at finishing them. But it's always a good time to get started. Also make sure that you've got a copy of your syllabus and your exam board and what they want you to know. Because sometimes when we use case studies or when we do experiments in labs, it's important to know which parts of that are essential. So make sure that you're underlining the key words and learning which parts of those are going to get you the marks in your exams. Okay. I'm going to pop up this slide. Okay. I've got 2 screens going and it's determined to go on this one. So some of you yesterday asked for one-to-one tutoring and how. There we go. Okay. Some of you asked for one-to-one tutoring. So here is the link for myself as a tutor, if you wanted to book some private tutoring. Some of you also asked for Olivia as well, and I think that the link to her profile as well might appear in the chat if we're lucky, if we've managed to get hold of it. So if you do want to book any one-to-one lessons for the coming term or anything, then do have a look. There's other tutors other than myself and Olivia as well. So make sure that you check those out. I will pop this link in the chat as well if I can. Okay. So that you've got that if you need it. Okay. My picture's the same as that appeared on the introductory slides for this too. There's also on the MyTutor webpage various resources and things that you can look through, so videos of us tutors answering common questions that appear as part of the syllabus, so make sure you check those out if you're worried. Have a look at the MyTutor YouTube channel as well. All of the lessons that have been recorded are there from over lockdown and through half term, and these 3 lessons that we've taught as part of the Christmas course as well will appear there. So let's have a look at questions. Will there be any more sessions like this next term? I think we're hoping to run another half-term session, but it's all kind of in progress at the moment. So definitely watch out for the news of that in your emails. Is there a lot of maths in A-level biology? That's a really good question. There is some maths, not lots. So mainly kind of equations and things that you might need to use, but nothing as complicated as you'll come across in maths A level at all. And some very basic statistics, so students' t-tests and things. How do I get rid of the thoughts on my digital life so that I can focus more on my GCSEs? That's a really good question. It's really hard now that we have so many things that are bleeping at us all the time. So recommendations for that are to make sure that you have focus time. So turn off your social media, turn off your phones, or there are certain apps that you can get as well that are really good for focusing. There's one where you can watch a little tree growing, and if you touch your phone, then it stops it growing. That's a really good one. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's Focus. So use those if they're helpful to make sure that you have time where your GCSEs is what you concentrate on. And that doesn't have to be long. Do 20 minutes, make that mind map, revise that one topic, and then have 10 minutes off. Make sure that you're kind of planning in that time. And don't be too hard on yourself. You don't need to study for hours at a time. You can do a bit, have a little break, do a bit more. Forest, that's it. Thanks everyone. That's really helpful. Yeah, that's great. I use that. How do you not forget what you learned? That's a really good question, and repetition is a really good thing for that. So go over and over and over. That usually helps. Do you need to revise every day to do well in A-level biology? No, not at all. Obviously, you tend to revise more as exams are coming up, and a little bit a day is probably a way of doing it that makes it not too, but there'll be lots of other subjects that you're trying to do as well. So it's worth, making a bit of a plan and a timetable. I'm saying that they have ADHD and are suffering. Yeah, it's really, really tricky. I've had a couple of students that I've tutored that have ADHD, and make sure that you're doing things that work well for you. So short times for studying, making sure that you concentrate on one topic, then have a break. That usually works really well. Making sure that you always have an eye on the big picture too. Good revision websites or books. BBC Bite Size cannot be overstated here. It's brilliant. It has everything you need to know. It's concentrated down to exactly what you'd need to know in your exams. The other one that's really good is a website called Physics and Maths Tutor. I use that to get like past paper questions and things, and it has really good revision notes for biology, for GCSE biology. So those are really useful. And then it also has questions grouped by topic. So if you want to practice questions for a particular topic, so for example, hormones and control systems, you can find that on that website. So it's really handy because you don't have to do a whole paper. You can just do a couple of questions, and the mark schemes are there too. I'd really recommend having a look at mark schemes because that shows you what the examiner is looking at when he's marking your paper. In school, when I have an end of topic test, I tend to revise everything a couple of days before the test. Is it better to revise when we're taught in school? To be honest, both is sometimes good. So spend 10 minutes at the end of the day looking over your notes from that lesson and making sure that you understood them. Then you can, if you've got any questions, you can let your teacher know. And then before the test, go through everything again, because it's the repetition that quite often works. I'm sorry, that's probably not the answer that you wanted to hear. But again, make sure that you break it down into manageable chunks. Okay, with 1 minute left, I think we're going to have to round up there. Oh, someone has recommended free science lessons. Really good YouTube channel. So that's probably another good one to check out if some of you are finding that one useful as well. Okay, so I think we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming over the last 2 days. I hope you found it useful. I hope it's cleared up a topic that's quite often a bit of a problem. I hope that some of these resources that we've provided today are also useful for you as well. And I hope that you have a really happy Christmas or whatever you're doing for these holidays, and that you're not too affected by COVID-19. And hopefully we will see you again for more lessons at some point, hopefully next half term, if not before. But thanks very much, everyone, and have a lovely evening.